appears to have tricked me, along with cryptocurrency in general, which was showing much more bearish signs. Are we about to flip around and turn into something even more exciting right now for the Ethereum price? Guys, jumping into the chart, I was looking at for the last couple of days where we've been coming into this sort of resistance zone through here. It was looking like Ethereum was showing a significant weakness with these wicks coming here, and I was anticipating that we would be coming down significantly further than where we did, and at least coming in towards this zone here at around $1,300, perhaps just under $1,300, and yet we seem to have been hitting into a smaller zone of accumulation, which is actually looking quite positive for the Ethereum price. And obviously we have walked into a buy zone down here, and what's showing us that this was potentially the buy zone. Initially we had some kind of wick showing here. We then had some strong pushes towards the upside and then have now retested this area. Now, if we are going to be continuing to push aggressively into this zone, then a few things needs to happen for the Ethereum price. I still believe that this zone up through here is going to be quite tricky for the Ethereum price to get through in the shorter term, but right now it does appear that we could well be seeing this happening in and over the weekend, especially right now where we basically have had this sort of fake out towards the downside, and this would have indicated to me that we were going to be traveling down to this level. Now, what I'm seeing right now and what we really need to see is a significant push beyond this. Now, one thing I am very wary of, guys, and I want you to think about the mindset of what is going on with regards to big money and what they kind of often do try to do. More often than not in Forex, you see this, where we got our high here, and then we come up and have another high. And then what kind of sometimes often happens is we break another high here. Everyone gets excited, everyone goes long in these areas. So very cautiously, if we are to break above this high and put in a price somewhere sort of above 1,650 into the sort of $1,700, that doesn't mean that we are completely out of the problem zone for Ethereum. We have to be very, very cautious of what happens if we are getting in towards this zone here, because it doesn't necessarily mean just because we're breaking this line in the sand that we are going to continue and rocket along like this. If you're looking at trading shorter term, then be very, very cautious of doing that, because this is basically a typical liquidity trap. Often a very big tactic that bigger institutions use for liquidity grabs is they wait for the price to squeeze into these zones, and then they see a sell-off like this. Now that would form, as you can see, somewhat of a double top pattern. So we've got to be very cautious. Now, to avoid that basically happening, how much higher we've really got to go, necessarily a complete and particular science, but what we would be looking for, guys, would be to break beyond this zone, come back and form a new high within this area, and then see if we were pushing towards the sort of $1,800 zone, and that would be looking at much more exciting. But what you can see over this side, we had a previous line of support coming in between sort of $1,700 and around $1,750, right? So if we are able to break beyond that in the shorter term, that would be pushing out of these particular bear market, and we would then have this being called basically a short squeeze, where everyone going short has continued to go short and waiting for a bounce towards the downside, and then now just going to squeeze the shorters out of the market, and then all the stop losses for the short positions will get hit. We could then run into a very hectic bull cycle. Now, so what we need to think about is where, if you were shorting the position, where would you be putting your stop losses? So if you were short here, many people would be probably having stop losses sort of sat here around the $1,900 level up to around the $2,000 level. So I think that if we are pushing up towards $1,900, towards $2,000, do not be surprised that if it suddenly gets towards these areas, it starts to hit those stop losses on the short positions, and we can see a very aggressive price action move back towards the upside. So where we would look then in terms of a price target, so guys, in terms of where I would look, if we are closing above 1750 and pushing beyond, people are asking where we would be pushing to. Well, Looking at the previous sort of price data here, you can see that when we did break down through, we came up and we consolidated here before pushing, which is showing that this would be a potentially nice supply zone for the Ethereum price, and that's at around $2,300, guys. So from current prices, if we were to see that in terms of a push, we're looking at 47 to 50% gain on Ethereum. Coming out to the daily, that would then show something very interesting indeed, because we could run a kind of a top bar across here. That guy shows me that we would probably be coming into contact with the top of a price pattern like this. When we have these kind of zones like this coming into contact with another technical analysis zone like this, you could be seeing that we could potentially hit something like this and then have another bounce back down towards the downside, which technically doesn't look very pretty. Would make quite a lot of sense that we could get up here, squeeze a lot of people into the market, and then short it back down to around the sort of $1,000 level. But in terms of what the lowest of the low is for Ethereum, I still sort of feel that we've kind of probably got there. Here we got down to around $880. I don't think we're going to be coming down quite as low as that again. I could be wrong. Thinking around $1,000 is pretty much the base point for Ethereum. That would then bring us to around sort of the September time, when obviously we're expecting the upgrade, a lot of hype, etc. could be coming in to the market. Don't expect right now these sort of things are all going to happen overnight, but you can see that we ultimately have a price target on this pattern, which would be all the way back up at all-time highs, so at 4,800 or just above. And obviously, guys, I think if we were to start pushing and challenging back up towards these levels, which wouldn't, in my opinion, happen sort of any time before perhaps the end of the year, that things are going to be looking a bit interesting. But definitely, guys, there's a bit more bullish sentiment in the market. Every time we've been pushed down, we're starting to see buyers getting more aggressive, getting more keen. We're seeing a lot more positivity within the news, showing that the institutions, etc., are trying to push the prices higher. They're trying to get people excited and get them back into the market, because that's where they see the sentiment going, and that's where they're trying to push the price at the moment. Now, obviously, guys, take everything said with a pinch of salt. Always go away and do your own research. Be very cautious of what's going on. It does seem in the shorter term that we are looking at much more bullish than we have been. It could be wrong. Guys, if you enjoyed that quick update, make sure you smash the thumbs up button for the YouTube algorithm. And if you're new to the channel, you want to know more about Ethereum as it happens, then make sure you subscribe to the channel to be kept up to date with all the latest happening. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Have a great weekend. See you soon.